Good day, students. Welcome to the Accuplacer Arithmetic Practice Test to get you ready for the displacement exam. Let's go ahead and take a look at question 1. So we're going to add 2.75 plus 0.003 plus 0.158. So the key idea here when adding decimals is you want to make sure that the decimal points are aligned perfectly. Okay. So we're going to write 2.75, 2.75. And notice how I'm going to write it 0.003. You make sure that the decimal point lines up perfectly, 0, 0, 3. If you misalign the decimal, you're going to get a distractor that's here, okay? So since we're adding, why don't we just add two at a time for the sake of simplicity so we don't make arithmetic errors. I'm going to add the first two. Notice how I lined up my decimal points. So there's no number here, so we need to put a placeholder, namely 0. So 0 plus 3 is 3. 5 plus 0 is 5. 7 plus 0 is 7.2. So 2.73. Alright? Now let's add the next one, which is 0.158. So please line up your decimals. 0.158. And then we'll just add downwards, okay? So we're going to have 3 plus 8 is 11. So 1, carry 1. 5 plus 5 is 10 plus 1, 11. Put down a 1, carry 1. 1 plus 7 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. And our answer, bring down the decimal point, and there's nothing here. We put a 0, 2 plus 0 is 2. So final result is 2.911. So the answer to question number 1 is B. Alright, so the lesson here is basically align your decimal points perfectly so you can get the right result. Misalignments result in wrong answers, okay? Alright, let's move on to question 2. 7.86, so we're going to write it 7.86 times 4.6. In a problem like this, alignment does not really matter. The most important thing is to keep track of the number of digits behind the decimal point, okay? So I'm going to write it as 4.6, and I'm just going to multiply, and we'll determine what's where the decimal point is after multiplication, okay? So let's act as though there are no decimal points and just multiply as we do regular numbers, okay? So 6 times 6, we're doing the ones place multiplication now. 6 times 6 is 36, 6, carry a 3. 6 times 8 is 48 plus 3 is 51, so put a 1, carry a 5. And we have 6 times 7 is 42 plus 5 is 47. So we have 4716. Now let's go to this place to the 4. Well, technically this is the 10th place and this is the 1st place, but we are ignoring the decimals right now, okay? So let's act as though this were the 10th place. So 4 times 6, we put a 0 here. Let's scratch these numbers out so we don't get confused. 4 times 6 is 24. So we're going to put down the 4, carry 2. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 2 is 34, 4 carry a 3. 4 times 7 is 28, plus 3 is 31. Okay? Alright, and then now we're going to add downwards. So we have 6, 1 plus 4 is 5, 4 plus 7 is 11, 1 carry 1. 4 plus 1 is 6, and then 3. Okay? So 36156. The question now is, after multiplying as though we're multiplying regular numbers without decimals, now we need to figure out where do we put our decimal points. So all you do is you're going to count the number of digits behind the decimal of the numbers you're multiplying, and that will determine your decimal placement, okay? So behind the decimal, we have 1, 2, 3. 3 numbers, so our product is going to have 3 numbers behind the decimal. So we count 1, 2, 3. So the answer is going to be 36.156. Okay, so 36.156. Okay, so if we use a method of elimination, we can even tell that these two cannot be answers because they have 2 digits behind the decimals, right? So this is the correct answer right here. Alright, now let's move on to question 3. 7 over 20. Well, in this problem, we are being tested on how to change from fractions to decimal. Okay, fraction to decimal. How do you divide 7 by 20? So 7 over 20. So we have a division bar. We can call this the doghouse. Okay, The number on the top is the top dog, and the top dog goes in the doghouse, right? So you have the 7 go there in the doghouse, the 7 in the denominator goes outside. Okay, so now let's divide. How many times does 20 go into 7? 20 can't go into 7 because 7 is too small. Alright, so what we're going to do is introduce a decimal point. After introducing the decimal point, we have add a 0. 20 goes into 70 how many times? You know, 20 times 3 is 60, and 20 times 4 is 80. That's too big, so we're going to use 3, okay? So 3 times 20 is 60. We subtract that. 1, 0. Add another 0. How many times is 20 going up? 100. 5 times. 5 times 20 is 100. Or just subtract that, we have 0. So 7 over 20 in decimal form is 0.35. Okay? So the answer is option letter C. Alright, let's move on to question 4. It says, which is the least? Well, all we just have to do is look at the numbers after the decimal point and order from there. Okay, so the numbers we have are 0.105, 0.501, 0.015, and 0.15. Okay, so right after the decimal place, we're going to look at the tenths place first. Let's look at the tenths place. Whichever number has the biggest number in the tenths place is going to be the biggest number. Okay, but we're looking for the least, so we're going to be eliminating bigger numbers. So behind the tenths place, we have 1501. So this obviously is the biggest one because 5 is the biggest, so that's number 1. This is the largest one. This is called number 1. If you notice, this one has a 1 and this has a 1. So these two tie for second place, and this has a 0. Since 0 is less than 1, this is the least. Okay, these two, one of them is the second or the third, but that doesn't really matter. But we know for sure that this one is the least because it has a 0 in the ones place. Okay, if you want to figure out which, so this is the number 4. If you want to figure out which is 2 and 3, you look at the next place. Okay, you look at the hundredths place. Hundredths. Spell that properly. You look at the hundredths place. So, if we look at the hundredths place, you'll notice that this has a 0 and this has a 5. So guess what? 5 is bigger than 0. This is number 2. This is number 3. And this is number 4. This is the last one, the smallest one. So the least number is 0.015. Answer to number 4 is C. Alright, let's move on to question 5. It says all the following are ways to write 25% of n except. So 25% of n, 25% of n, you just remember that of is a mathematical operation which is known as a product. Okay, so we can write percentage as fractions or decimals. Okay, so what does percent mean? Percent basically means divide by 100. Okay, that's what percent means. So 25% in mathematical form is 25 over 100, and then of is multiplied by n. So 25 over 100 times n is 25n over 100. Okay, so it says except, so we're looking for the one that is wrong, so we know that this is good. Now, can we reduce this? Absolutely, we can reduce by 25, right? So if I reduce this, divide the top by 25, and the bottom by 25, because the greatest common factor of 25 and 100 is 25. If I do that, I'm going to end up with n over 4, because 100 divided by 25 is 4. We have 4 quarters in $100, right? So n over 4, we can write it as 1n over 4, which is the same thing as 1 over 4n. Okay? Because 25 divided by 25 is 1. 100 divided by 25 is 4. So this one is good also. Now the final answer is either one of these is wrong. Either D is wrong or A is wrong. Now what is 1/4 in fraction form? 1/4 is how many quarters? Think about it. 1/4 is 25 cents, right? So it looks like this one is good. But let's show that. Let's show what the answer, okay? So we've been able to see that 25% is equal to 25 over 100, which is equal to 1 over 4, Now we want to find the decimal equivalent of these three numbers. Okay, so we're going to divide. Remember the top dog, the numerator goes in the doghouse. All 4. 4 can go into 1, it's too small. You put a decimal point, I'm sorry. Put a 0 behind, decimal point and a 0 behind the 1. 4 goes into 10 twice. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract, you get a 2. Introduce another 0. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20. So 0.25. Alright, so this is also the same thing as 0.25. So 1/4 n is equal 0.25 n. Okay? So that means that this is also an accurate representation of 25% of n. The one that's inaccurate is 25. Okay, so remember percent, as long as it's less than 100, is always going to be a fraction. Okay, it's between 100 and 0. Alright, so there you have it. Okay, let's move on to number 6. It says, which of the following is closest to 27.8 times 9.6? So this is just testing our rounding skills, okay? 27.8 times 9.6. Remember, if the number behind the decimal, or if the number behind is 4 or less, you round where? Where do you round to? You round down, okay? If it's 5 or more, the digit, you round up, okay? So to make the multiplication easy, we want to round these into, round it to the ones place, okay? So since this is 8, we're going to round this up to 28. And since this is 6, we're going to round this up to 10. Okay, so both of them are rounded up because the number behind the place we're rounding to, namely the ones place, this number is bigger than, is 5 or greater, and this number is 5 or greater. So you round up in both cases. And you have 28 times 10, which is 280. So answer to question 6 is A. Okay? Alright. Alright, let's take a look at question 7. It says a soccer team played 160 games and won 65% of them. How many games did it win? So, we're going to be looking at 65% of 160, okay? So what is 65% of 160? Remember we talked about the word percent as meaning divided by 100. So 65% in mathematical form is 65 divided by 100. That's what percent means. Of is multiplication. 160. Let's express this as a fraction also. Alright, so here we can cross reduce. We can reduce cross or up and down. So we can divide by 10 by canceling these zeros out. And let's see what we can do here. 65 ends in a 5, so that means it's divisible by 5, and 10 ends in a 0, which means it's divisible by 5 also. So let's divide this by 5. And divide this by 5 also. Okay, so that's going to give us 65 over 5. 5 goes into 6 once, remainder 1. 5 goes into 15 3 times. We have 13 over 10 divided by 5 is 2 times 16 over 1. Now we can cross reduce by dividing by 2, so I could divide this by 2 again and divide that by 2 also. So that's going to give me 13 times 13 over 2 divided by 2 is 1. 16 divided by 2 is 8 over 1. And then now we just do at 13 times 8. Okay? So let me work this out for you. 13 times 8. 8 times 3 is 24. 4. Carry 2. 8 times 1 is 8. Plus 2 is 10. So it's 104. So 65% of 160 games is 104 games. So the answer to question 7 is B. Alright, let's take a look at question 8. It says 3 people work full-time. 3 people who work full-time are to work together on a project. But their total time on the project is to be equivalent to that of only one person working full-time. If one of the people is budgeted for 1/2 of his time to the project, and the second person for 1/3 of her time, what part of the third worker's time should be budgeted to this project? Okay, so we know that all the workers' time add up to 1, right? They all add up to 1. So we have 1/2 and 1/3. What's left? So if they all add up to 1, all I have to do is to find what's left, I have to take out what is used up, right? So the first person took out 1/2, and the next person took out 1/3. So if I subtract these two from 1, whatever fraction I'm left with, that's going to be what the third person's uh, budgeted work time will be. Okay? So this fraction can help us solve this problem. So the question is, what is 1 minus 1/2, which is the minus 1/2, which is the first person's work time, minus 1/3, which is the second person's work time. So if I can figure this out, that'll tell me what the third person's work time is, okay? So let's figure out what this is. I'll express this as a fraction over 1. Now to subtract these fractions, we need the denominators to be the same. So we're going to find something called the LCD. So what's the LCD of 2 and 3? What is the biggest number that these two can go into? Since they're both prime, you just multiply both of them. Okay, if you're finding the LCD of these similar prime numbers, you just multiply them together, and that will give you the LCD. So the LCD of 2 and 3 is 2 times 3 in this case, which is 6. All right. So I'll ask myself, I want to change the denominators to 6 of these three numbers. So what do I multiply each number by, top and bottom, to make the denominator 6? This is 1, 1, so I'll multiply by 6, top and bottom. This is 2. 2 times 1 is 6, obviously is 3. Times it by 3, top and bottom. This one is 3, so I'll multiply by 2, top and bottom. Do that. So multiply by 2, top and bottom. Alright, so that gives me 6 over 6 minus 3 over 6 minus 2 over 6. Okay? Now we can unite all the denominators since they're common. That's why we look for the common denominator, so we can just focus on the numerator. So we're going to have 6 minus 3 minus 2. Let's do the subtraction piece first. So 6 minus 3 minus 2, the signs are the same. So you add and keep the sign. So 6 minus 5 over 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. So 1 over 6 is your final answer. So the answer is option C. Okay? Alright. Now let's move on. Question 9. 32 is 40% of what number? That's a question. 32 is 40% of what number? Alright, so let's say let's give it a variable. Let the number be x. Let the number be x. Okay, so it says 32 is 40% of what? What is x? Okay, so we're going to translate this equation from word form into an algebraic equation, and then we're going to solve it using the properties of algebra. Okay, so 32 is a number needs in the translation. 32 is always equal to. Okay, 40% in mathematical form is 40 divided by 100, okay? And off is multiplied by x. So now we have an algebraic equation that we can solve using the tools of algebra, okay? So let's reduce this piece first. The zeros can divide out. That's divided by 10. And I can divide 4 by 2 and divide 10 by 2. So that gives me 32 equals 2 over 5x. Okay? Alright, so how do I isolate x? X is being multiplied by 2 over 5. So to isolate x, I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 2 over 5, right? So if I multiply by the reciprocal, 5 over 2, both sides, the reciprocal is what you get when you switch the numerator and the denominator with each other, okay? So multiply both sides by 5 over 2. 5 goes to 1, 5 goes to 1, 2 goes to 1, 2 goes to 1. So you're going to have x equals, now how do you do this piece right here? Since this is a fraction, why don't we express this in the same form so we can multiply with ease? So put it over 1, okay? The multiplying across, well, we can actually reduce this, right? Because 2 goes into 32. So if I divide this, 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 32 16 times. So we just multiply 5 and 16. 5 times 16 is 80. Okay? So the number that we're speaking of here is 80, which is option C. Alright, let's take a look at question 10. It says, what is 3 and a third minus 2 into 3? Alright, so to do this, what we're going to do is basically convert both numbers into improper fractions, and then we'll go from there. Okay, why are we doing that? Well, because the denominators are different, and we do not know if we might have to borrow from the whole number to make the denominator big enough for the subtraction to happen. So whenever you're working with mixed numbers with the similar denominators, always make it into improper fraction. Okay, so let's go ahead and make this an improper fraction. So what I'm going to do is multiply and add. Okay, same thing here, multiply and add. Alright, so 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1, 10, so 10 over 3, minus 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12 over 5. Alright, now we need to find the LCD. What is the LCD of 3 and 5? Remember, these are both co-prime, and they are primes, so the LCD is going to be the product again. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, so I need to make the denominators common. I want to make them both 15. To accomplish that, on this term on the left, I'll times it by 5 top and bottom, and on the right, I times it by 3 top and bottom. Okay, so that's going to give me 50 over 15 minus 36 over 15. Now that the denominators are the same, I can write it as 50 minus 36 over 15. Alright, so 50 minus 36, if we subtract it, we'll end up with 14. 14 over 15. Okay, so there goes the answer. So the answer to question 10 is option C. Alright. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please feel free to subscribe to my channel for other cool test prep materials such as this. More videos can be found on mathgotserved.com. Thanks again and have a wonderful day.